maldito me la va a deber. Porque yo soy indio, no debo de saberlo. Pasa ya mi tierra, no debe de suceder. Milicia del masacre, es injusto que no ven a mi pobre gente que no se lo merece.
Okay.
We're about to do it.
Wait, do we have
I think we could do a chest bump. We haven't done it in a while.
Yeah, sure. We can do it. Okay, yeah, I think I hurt myself a little bit.
Wow, that was intense.
Having trouble breathing.
Hello and welcome to It's Happenin' Show, community grassroots media for the people, by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
And I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
We are your hosts, indeed. It's happening as a movement, as the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, then elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
It's Happenin' is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight back. Yeah. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us, so we thank you because of you. It's happening.
Woo!
Yeah.
We're still out of sync. We're used to the Zoom latency, so we've adjusted, but you know, we're working on it.
We are working on it.
It's weird to be in the same room. It's like everything's very tactile. Like everything's like you're very real in 3D, you know?
Yeah. It's just a different dynamic.
Yeah.
I miss this guy.
Yeah.
I miss doing the show.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Got busy. Also, we don't have a studio, so you know we're in an underground bunker somewhere.
Number 7.
Yeah, number 7 in the long line of
too many locations
yeah,
now.
just an undisclosed location that may be familiar for some, but if it's familiar, it's an illusion. But it's we are happily doing here the live show with our great audio video engineer. Edgar Silva from Iron Lion Media. You can get him, hire him, and
Cameras.
do all your podcasts and
Sound.
campaign videos and all sorts of magical things. Sounds, music,
Buttons.
magic.
He has the buttons. Yeah. He hits buttons.
Pictures in graphic art. So it's been really cool, and we're gonna have a great show today.
Cool.
We're gonna be having in just a bit Dr. Jose F. Moreno, Anaheim City Council extraordinaire.
Nice.
Friend of the show, most visited person
Probably
here
I'd
ever.
say. Yeah.
You know, he's gone through our evolution, but before that, last time we were here, we had a very forgettable show.
Yeah.
Where it was just me and Dylan. I was wearing different masks. Dylan was just trying to,
I think.
talk and me here, listen to him. I think that was an issue.
Yeah, it was an issue.
couldn't
We
really
were
hear
running it ourselves. It was not the most professionally produced.
Yeah, but that's why we love Edgar. And then so much has happened. We'll get through just a couple things because we just want to get right into what we are here for. But
A couple things. That's new segment.
new
No
segment.
more quick stories.
No more top
stories.
No more top stories.
No
It's like
headlines.
a few quick things.
Quick things. Couple things. Yeah.
Starring. All right. Coronavirus has been defeated. Woo! Take that, coronavirus.
You did it. Wait.
People power.
It's everywhere still.
Oh, no, actually, psych, it's not. It's still everywhere. It's going to be with us forever.
Pretty much. Get used to another flu season, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, but,
you don't have to wear masks anywhere.
That's right. Maskless life. I'm what you call immune. I've never been.
Yeah.
I've never had it. So.
Like you've never shown symptoms.
I've never shown symptoms.
But you're probably like this
gotten
passive
tested
carrier that's gotten
and then
hundreds of thousands of people sick.
That's true. I'm Agent Zero.
Hey, guys.
I don't know. I'm lucky,
Yeah,
but I mean, it seems like everybody's gonna catch it at some point.
Pretty much.
But hopefully, one thing that we don't catch is the monkey flu, monkeypox.
The monkeypox. What?
Yeah, because you just start growing hair everywhere, and you're like, ooh, ah, ah, ah.
I'm sure that's why they've called it that.
Yeah, I think pretty sure that's why.
Well, that you heard it here first, guys. The information you need to protect yourself and your families.
Right here, right now, when it's happening.
Medical advice.
Yes,
Yeah.
and just a quick recap, man. There's so many races that happen here, but locally here in Santana,
Yes.
We had some interesting turn of events. Vicente Sarmiento goes on, the top vote getter and for the supervisorial race, and is going against Kim Nguyen.
Nice.
So Dem versus Dem. Another Dem versus Dem we
Showdown.
got coming up is Doug Chafee versus Sonny Park. So that's gonna be interesting. All sorts of vested interest. Who will come in first? All right, well, more to be seen in November. With La Santana, Anaheim, we got Benjamin Vasquez. Shout out to Don Manny Escamilla, Sal Tinajero, looking to keep some of that progressive wins going.
Yes, sir.
And Dr. Asif Mahmood for Congress, Katie Porter. There's just a bunch of folks. And statewide, the Gavinator beat his recall.
Yep.
I'd like to thank everybody for voting for me.
Thank you.
Against that stupid recall.
Yeah.
I will never be able to thank you enough for forgetting about my lapse in judgment that one day.
On those few occasions.
Those few occasions where...
Many occasions.
But that one time I got caught, and I would have gotten away with it. I mean...
If it weren't,
For you pesky reporters. Yeah. So, semejanza, hipocresía, as we say in Spanish. But, it happens. It just the worst thing is it's like you say something, you do something else. But anyways, all to say that he survived. He might be our best chance to take back the White House. Or continue the White House?
We'll see.
Take it back once Donald Trump runs and beats Joe Biden, and then we have to get it. That's kind of...
Or if they run Joe Biden at all next time. There's a lot of rumors he won't make. He won't. He's not there mentally to make it. But
the reading off the prompters was just not a good showing for him. It's been challenging. It's been challenging.
It's been a
but,
challenge.
There
have been challenges.
Yeah, and especially not as challenging as it will be for Democrats to elect Democrats in the next midterm because there's no Trump. So that was the biggest GOTV candidate that has ever lived for us.
They gotta extend the fear somehow. I mean, he'll probably run again. Maybe they'll get another chance to get that media storm going again.
Guys, I'm totally gonna be back, and it's gonna be better than ever. It's gonna be not even America first. It's gonna be America first of the first.
Firstest.
America firstest.
Covfefe. Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, our story that we want to get into before our segue into our awesome guest here tonight was.
More stories.
More stories. So I want to give a very big shout out. There's a lot of people that were pressing the issue, but I feel none greater than the Voice of OC. So they, really proved investigative journalism still has a huge role to play in all these affairs. Also getting caught with your hands in the cookie jar and then turning informant and then pointing fingers at everybody but we won't go there. We'll just say that investigative journalism came through and helped to get us in this place. And also really bad decisions by one person, and that is Todd Amon. So recently the Voice of OC came out with an article on July 1st saying Anaheim Chamber CEO Todd Amon pleads guilty to fraud charges, could face decades in federal prison. So he pled guilty last Friday on federal criminal charges for defrauding a cannabis company, fraudulently obtaining a COVID relief business loan worth roughly $62,000. That happened a lot. And lying to a bank while seeking a loan for $1.5 million, home in San Bernardino Mountains, filing a false tax return. Man, that guy must be kicking himself in the butt. All of this started because that dude, just got lazy with it.
Pretty much.
Whoops.
I mean, it's kind of interesting to read some of the documents that the feds released regarding this because, what he got busted on were he's basically embezzling money or figuring out ways to take money for himself illegitimately. But there's a lot more information about how he's basically running kind of what seems to be some kind of shadow government that has a lot of sway over the politicians in Anaheim. But that's not illegal. that's just like, that's just some side stuff he was doing. But so it's kind of funny because what seems more egregious to me is the actual puppeteering of our politicians and running like what they would call a cabal or their family of invested people that have some control over our politicians. Those aren't crimes. They're just ethically probably worse, but they get you on the money stuff. So that's where he messed up. Because think about it. If he didn't do any of that stuff and he kept doing all the cabal stuff, he'd probably still be comfortably in power. And he would just have $100,000 less or $200,000, however much he embezzled there, right?
Exactly. I got to say, like, hubris is democracy's best friend. Quote me.
There you
Quote
go.
me. Yeah, so they try to get this cannabis company to, say, like, hey, you give us money, we're going to do this, and this is going to happen, and, just started sending texts and then filing false tax reports and et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah, it's been really nutty, and there's just so much juiciness that we'll get into. But,
Yes, sir.
This is this is the cadre of a cabal. La Familia, Holmes.
Yeah.
Are you down for La
They're
Familia or
pretty
what,
serious.
fool? Like, yeah, Spencer, you better not be a ranker, homie, or else... All right, Anaheim Chamber, and last but not least, Anaheim Chamber CEO Todd Amy. Oh wait, I read that. He pleaded guilty, so that's a thing. Who will be the Anaheim's next mayor following an FBI corruption probe?
Yes.
So, Dr. Jose Moreno said at June 21st, it is embarrassing that we do not have a mayor at this point, and it is consequential that we don't have a mayor to work directly with staff on items in between meetings, to be the spokesperson for the council, and to bring back trust and confidence in what we're doing up here. So other folks spoke up, because currently the mayor pro tem is Trevor O'Neill, who was also, allegedly, part of this here cabal of La Familia Holmes resident. And so folks started saying, that various people could be mayor, including Tom Tate, Paul Cott for whatever reason. That was folks including Councilman Avelino Valencia advocated for that, and he declined. Said, I have more important things to do, like make a lot of money and not get caught up into this madness, for like a month or two for what kind of pay? Yeah, get out of here. So with that, one of the people that could be Anaheim's next mayor is here today, and his name is Dr. Jose Moreno.
Woo!
He is currently the Anaheim City Council member. Could be the next mayor.
Potential mayor
for 2 months, but
actually mayor of the people
friend
currently,
of the show, but forever the mayor of the people.
Yeah, always.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moreno, for joining us here today.
Woo!
Ow!
Good to be here, man. Love the space. I just commented. I'm watching this, so I just commented. Love the
Nice.
space.
We
Yeah.
decorate.
Even if it's
here.
the fifth or sixth space, everyone
Yeah.
is magical.
Yes, yeah. Our reputation precedes us
That is
to
correct.
new venues.
We are a nomadic people.
Yeah,
We are nomadic
make it
people.
happen.
Amen to that.
it's happening.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening is
That's
about
right.
migration.
Yes,
And migratory practices.
but
of our
we
shows.
we migrate, but we might have to rename the show. It might become the Jose Moreno Show, co-starring Jose and Dylan. Yeah, at this rate, 'cause,
Featuring It's Happening, for sure.
like if you put on a pie chart, like you have a significant slice of the pie. As
I
far
feel
as,
like the Gary Sandling of the Johnny Carson show.
There you go. Yes, yes,
You know who Gary Sandling was, right?
yes. Yeah, I do. The comedian.
Comedian.
Yes.
That's right. That's correct.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, thanks again. Believe you are the one that's been here the most. Maybe, Matt Cedillo has come been up here,
Yeah.
but you are by far a favorite.
Well, you'd be co-host with Matt Cedillo.
Yeah, that's right.
that's
It was
how
you.
it
It would be
should
you
work.
and Matt Cedillo.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I like him too, but for different reasons. But anyways, so you have been a very busy man of late. You've been doing interviews. That's why I was really surprised when you said yes to this here, because you're a hot ticket item. Like you just all of a sudden everybody's blowing up your phone, and maybe more so than ever. When maybe you were trying to get attention from some people. Maybe not Voice of OC, but other, publications and stuff. It's like, hey, can you not pay attention to what's happening here? Because as I said, at the city council meeting, I went up to speak. It's like people treated you like the boy that cried wolf. Like they were they marginalized you, they disrespected you, they disrespected Denise Barnes, and they just put y'all into this place like, this is what we're gonna do, and you're not gonna be able to do a damn thing about it. And you kept on, diligently calling out perceived backroom dealings and corruptions that now this FBI probe has really blown the lid out of and just exposed so much that was happening, not just in Anaheim, but in other cities and throughout Orange County and stuff. So, I mean, how do you feel like, in this moment, do you feel vindicated, or do you feel like, about time, or like, what are your thoughts?
Well, being here, I feel home, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of attentions come. But of course, when you asked, it's like, this is where one is supposed to be, is speaking in places and engaging with folks who want to engage in critical conversation and inform people about what's happening in ways that media doesn't cover. So Voice of OC has been consistent in this coverage, and really the only consistent investigative agency. So it feels horrible to feel good, because at the end, who this really hurts and who has always hurt is the people of Anaheim, the folks struggling to just make ends meet, the folks who asked us to push rent stabilization policy, the mobile home folks at Rancho La Paz, and then we learned the other 30-plus mobile home parks in Anaheim are struggling with rent increases. Investments in the community in terms of community services. We still only spend 10 cents on the dollar for residents through community services, but 45 cents on the dollar to police. So we spend more on policing our people than actually uplifting them. And so in that regard, it feels bad to be right. And so I didn't take any. It wasn't exciting, but it was good to see that at least a part of our government is watching, and it feels good that for all the folks who stood with us and kept coming to City Council, who also were being told, right, at least I have a platform to keep saying, no, what you're saying isn't right, it's wrong. People would come to public comments and say their piece, and they would just get disrespected without the ability to respond. And so I felt it really important for me to try to respond on their behalf and with them up at the dais, but we continued to be emboldened to speak to truth. And that's what we found here is the truth came out.
And boy, did it. I mean, there was a lot of bad conduct, even just starting with the mayor, right?
Which he did resign, but, it's like, what else are you going to do? Like, your political career is finished.
Definitely.
But yeah, so, like, now you're in a situation where, I mean, when I went to the city council meeting, it was like night and day, without him there, one, but also, like, people were voting with you on items to agendize things, and all of a sudden people are really scared. It's just like, they're like, what do I do? How do I vote? People used to tell me and write for me, like, and that's what, like, it came out in the FBI probe, like, and I always knew, and I'd call it out, and folks would be like, you could tell, like, Harry was, like, reading this not very well, like, what was being written for him to say, because he's just not a good politician. He's a great puppet, but not a good, like, a wordsmith, per se.
Yeah.
Well, and I, said this at the last council meeting, the way that they're speaking to folks in the audience, to commenters, but including myself, yes, they're nicer, their tone is more civil, and sure, we'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas, and we'll answer your questions, and we'll change the agenda policy, but that doesn't mean they're voting different.
Yeah.
At the end, as we saw with the campaign finance reform, and we'll see with other upcoming votes, they're not. They learned that they could no longer get away with what they were doing, in part because there was a large media attention to this. It wasn't just local residents anymore watching; it's the media watching. And so I think the effort there is I was hoping it would be a tone of reconciliation, and let's do some things together, and I think our work together, the most important thing we could do right now is restore a level of trust. I mean, you have to earn the trust back, but at least start moving in that direction. And we haven't quite seen that yet. And I called for an investigation the very first night it happened, and And then council members started to play around with what that investigation might look like, and whether we should spend money on it, and who should direct it. And it's coming out of our city manager's office with recommendations, and he's implicated. And, remind folks that the city manager was directly appointed by Harry Sidhu and the cabal.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that he's part of it. It just means he's a product and a beneficiary of this cabal.
Yeah.
Self-proclaimed cabal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just hope people keep their eye on it. Keep their eye on the ball.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Just the word cabal is just, that's the word of the year for sure. And then the family.
Year of cabals.
It's like, man, I was telling Dylan,
Can they
man,
be
this is.
trusted?
I can make you an offer you can't refuse. It's like Todd Amon was the godfather and all this. Like, hey, you don't mess with the familia homes.
Yeah. It's like, I have my doubts about elected official number 7. It's like, there are a lot of, I don't know how high that number went up.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we know, like, how many people have come out or could be positively identified to be those people. We know for sure Harry Sidhu's one of them. But, do we know anything about 2 to 7?
We do.
Yes.
They actually had set it up at the dice.
Okay.
I won't remember the numbers, but Trevor O'Neill said he's number 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, maybe Jordan, I think he said. And I think he's 4, and Steve might be 3. So he kind of outed all of them. And Avelino also came out and said that too. He says, I'm the one that they're saying is a double agent. So I'm
they
not with
doubted
them.
me.
Yeah.
They didn't trust me.
They doubted me.
Yeah,
they called me a double agent.
They thought they'd get screwed if they brought me in. So I'm cool.
Yeah, well, which is a kind of I thought, dude, I wouldn't be excited about being called a double agent. That's just not something you get excited about. But at the end, I think what was great is that people at the end of the day are focusing, who are coming to council, on the right thing, which is who is getting funded by these puppeteers, right? Who was being funded? And they all have received substantial dollars, all of them. And I think what was, I'll say, frankly disappointing in council colleagues is their sense of surprise when all this played out. Like, oh my gosh, I thought he was the most honest guy. We didn't know this was happening, and so I forgot who put it up on a meme. It was this thing of like Casablanca, right? Like, you mean there's gambling in Casablanca? I'm shocked, right? The police chief. So, and again,
R. Kelly, not R. Kelly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think on the comments they just posted that Harry was 1 and Avelino 2 and Trevor was
there it is.
3 and Fessel 4. I was 6, I think, and I was included as, let's give Avelino to do that so that Jose doesn't get that, right? He wants that, and frankly, while it's sad and we could kind of laugh at it, not so much about it, because then it's a travesty for the people of Anaheim.
Right.
But on real terms, what that meant, when I read the part that they talked about me taking things from me, not letting me do things, that was when I was pushing in Anaheim for a commission on public health in Anaheim to bring together stakeholders about what are we going to do as Anaheim, with schools, with faith-based groups, with nonprofits, city leadership, to business people, to come together on a task force to really take on all of the different complications of COVID, health, economic, and then neighborhood, housing, and people. So I was pushing that for months, and they just wouldn't even agendize it. They wouldn't discuss it. Yeah. And what came out in the FBI investigation is the way they bring in Avelino is to say, let's give it to Avelino so that Jose doesn't do it. And then that was in December when the mayor announced the mayor's task force on COVID, and he appointed Avelino to lead the day-to-day function. And we see that they say Avelino will take it because it'll be something that Jose wanted to do, and sure enough, Avelino embraced it, took it, and at the end, those are real life consequences to how many hundreds of lives could we have saved if the cabal and Harry weren't working in this way. And if council members weren't simply looking for ways to get themselves ingratiated. That's the outcome at the end. When people say, oh, that's just politics, it is, and that's just interest politics, it is, but has real life consequences on life and death in Anaheim. Even aside from COVID, the life and death of people's ability to find housing and to have housing and to be evicted and to be in unsanitary conditions. And then the public starts to blame the schools. Why can't the kids do better? And then the police start policing heavier because neighborhoods are struggling that much harder. So it's real life consequences here.
Yeah.
That's why while it's vindicating, it's also tragic that these 5 other council members, their primary concern was saying, we're not with Harry. We didn't know he was doing this. That was their primary concern.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yes.
It is. I mean, just, and how much harm was done in that time. There's a lot of people that have some blame, a lot of medium blame, and all the blame, or just, have their hands dirty, blood on their hands or whatnot.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of stuff that happened. I mean, Anaheim didn't support, renters with enough rental assistance during COVID, compared to other cities perhaps, and they gave a buttload of money to, was it the tourism lobby, was Anaheim First, I believe?
$7 million to visit Anaheim, the Visitors Bureau, while the resort's closed.
Yeah.
It's
Indefinitely.
Just hooking the homies up, just taking money that could have been very well appreciated and spent on the community and giving it to people that didn't need it because they were close and they were getting PPE loans and all sorts of other support, so yeah, it's just all sorts of things. But I mean, so a lot of people are saying, and I think in one of your interviews, the interviewer was mentioning because of this, the pendulum is going to sway towards, not an interviewer, somebody that was, a YouTuber that was commenting on the issue, saying this might sway then the next council to be not so pro-business as the last one. Do you think that's the case? Or do you think that, these people that, are going to be running for re-election, like Gloria May, or new folks, or, in the case of, the mayor's race, which Ashley and, whoever else they're going to run up there, are they going to, are the people going to be I don't like what happened with the Angel Stadium, I don't like this corruption, I'm going to vote for better candidates?
Well, I feel in many ways that's why I'm in office now, because that's what got people moving towards district elections. It made real sense to them on real terms and their real lives. The idea that should we have districts and expand our council to assure that every part of our city, at least in 6 areas, have a voice, an institutionalized voice at the dais. That can bring agenda items, that can speak to the needs, that can speak to the hopes, and propose ideas, and rally resources. So I think people started to get that, and then in 2016, the majority that was elected on a platform of opposing this overinvestment and imbalance with the resort. So I feel we saw that cycle, but big money is like a gas. It's like this gas that any crack, it's gonna find its way into that room.
Yeah.
And so we felt quite confident, frankly, about the people get it. They get it. If you run as a resort first candidate, and people will eye who's funding you, but they quickly evolved, and you stopped hearing in the campaigns in 2018. Harry didn't talk about investing in the resort. He talked about Keep Angels baseball, and he talked about investing in neighborhoods and the parks and homelessness and that kind of stuff. So people bought into that. And if you're a candidate that has $1,000 to spend on a message that is about community and neighborhoods, what they did is they took your message, they put it to their candidate, and gave that candidate $800,000. So the same message is going to be heard that you are trying to get out. And so the ability of voters to determine who's the authentic messenger here was very difficult. So they were able to get their majority, and we saw what they did right away. They quickly set up these rules. Will Anaheim shift this time? I'm hopeful and cautiously optimistic. I would be optimistic fully if this campaign finance reform were to actually be approved as proposed.
Yeah.
But we're hearing it tomorrow. Steve Fessel has gutted it completely. And so that makes me think twice about whether the people of Anaheim will be able to really see who the funding mechanisms are. So let me just say one more thing about the consequences, because I think people really need to understand what it meant for a Harry Sadu and his 5 Pied Pipers to run what they did, or Pied Pipers to do and his followers with the cabal. When I was pushing, and I'm thinking about Mayor Sarmiento at the time, he was a council member. So he and I checked in with each other because Santana and Anaheim, sister cities, very similar circumstances for our demographies of working poor people, servicing Orange County in different ways with our labor. And we see the poverty there in our school districts, in our neighborhoods, affordable housing struggles. So he and I were talking about how we're the hardest hit areas. And I'll say Supervisor Chafee helped convene a group with Clayton Chow, the Director of Public Health, around equity that brought Anaheim and Santana together. Mayor Pulido participated for a bit, but then he just checked out, and Councilman Sarmiento at the time, now Mayor, jumped right in, is that we have to resolve this. So we were working respectively as sister cities within our own spaces with Latino Health Access and other communities. And I asked our city administration, I really would like to have you be a part of this. And they said, I was told directly by our city administration, well, clearly the mayor and the council don't agree with you that they want such a task force or commission work, so we really can't help on that. So that had huge consequences, and I, again, am thankful to Latino Health Access, our school district, Mike Matsuda, Al Jabbar, at the time president of the board, I think with Emery Randall Trejo was president of the board, that they dove in headfirst into, okay, if the city doesn't want to fill this gap, we will. And so they hosted testing clinics, vaccine clinics, while Harry was taking pictures at Disneyland at the convention center of the work for the county to do your testing and your vaccines there. Great for the county, but for Anaheim, the hardest hit, people were not going there. That was the hardest hit. And Santana, people weren't going there. So again, the consequences when a cabal decides that we're going to do public health in the way that provides political capital for our people, who they want, had real consequences on the lives of the people in Anaheim. So that's what I'm hoping campaigns and candidates will remind the people of Anaheim about, is at the end, who was willing to stand up, not just during a pandemic around health, but around the economic severity of it to the people on the ground, not just the resort. And I hope, again, people will see that. I was literally told recently by the city administration that the reason they didn't want to participate is because they felt that I was politicizing the pandemic, because I had reached out to Supervisor Chafee and Al Jabbar. And I was literally told, well, Al Jabbar's running for city council, so that's why you wanted to get your political crony supported. I was like, Al Jabbar was the deputy chief of staff of the supervisorial district that I live in and represent as a council member, and he's on the school board. And he's living in the most hardest hit area of Anaheim, 92805. Yeah. So where did you want me to go to get help with somebody? Al Jabbar got clinics started at high schools, at our community centers, because he got the supervisor's attention to focus on this, and thankfully they did. And the irony of it is that they're blaming me for being political, for involving the very people who brought resources, and the people who had the resources for our city chose to take them to the resort and make people who we were telling stay socially distant carpool to a car, because our folks don't have, a lot of people have cars. They're carpooling with masks on to go get tested, which makes no sense. That's why the neighborhood thing was so important. So, but our city administration, are they bad? Are they evil because of it? No, they were following the directives of a cabal. And we saw that the previous city manager, when he didn't do that, he challenged it, he got fired.
Yeah, and they interviewed him, speaking of him, and yeah, he let it all out. He was just like, oh, I was waiting for somebody to ask me what happened over there, because, they really screwed him in
They did.
ways.
They did. And through that process,
Because he dared to stand up to them.
Through that process, a reminder, it was most of that is also played out for the Anaheim Stadium deal. And this huge sweetheart deal that they ended up getting was through the process of COVID and these meetings deciding on what's going to happen, happening via teleconference on telephones. The people could not go and comment publicly on the final components of the Anaheim Stadium deal. I had no idea. Clearly, it was happening. We don't know if someone was sitting in a room with 5 other lobbyists. We don't know if the mayor was sitting in a room with 5 lobbyists deciding how he was going to advocate to the city council for his position. We don't know. And without public comments, they acted like the people in Anaheim wanted this, right? And so they did all this under the cover of COVID, and they took full advantage of it and exploited it.
Yeah, Zapata. That's his name.
I was kind of curious about Mayor Sidu. I mean, he just go back to the very basics of the case. He's giving the Angels a sweetheart deal in exchange for, I keep seeing the figure of $1 million.
Yeah.
Is that like some kind of like Dr. Evil thing? Like, I mean, get more ambitious. You know what I'm saying? Just 1 million? He just wanted to hit that, that figure, I guess. But,
yeah, that's so there's several things he got caught for. One of them isn't related to Anaheim. He registered a helicopter.
The yellow helicopter.
Yeah, the yellow helicopter. He registered it in Arizona to avoid state taxes in California. He wired the transactions through Florida through his broker. So he broke all kinds of commerce, interstate laws.
Isn't it crazy that they get him on that?
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
Out of all the things.
Yeah,
anyway,
so taxes in Al Capone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for sure they got him on that. Now on this question with he was gonna seek a bribe is what we know at best for the Angels. What we don't know from the Angels side is that one of them agreed, yeah, we're gonna keep funding you, or did they make previous agreements that they funded him in exchange for his reinstating their lease, right? That's what he did. He reinstated their lease, which was cost the city on the value of the land at least $400 or $500 million. So what he was caught is, and on a wiretap with Todd Ament is saying, initially he was going to be asking for $500,000, which is not to his campaign, but to a PAC to support him, which is why the PAC thing is so important, right? That we include that in our campaign finance. So his hubris got to him, and he says, you know what? I'm making this deal happen so well for them, I'm going to ask for $1 million. And so that's what it was, is that he had intended to shake them down for an additional $1 million. Whether he actually did or not is to be seen.
Right.
I'll tell you where folks in Anaheim, and maybe beyond Anaheim, are super nervous is that, and Voice of OC kind of discussed this last week and talked to some former federal prosecutors. They said it's uncommon for this much detail to come out on basically an affidavit that sought to get a warrant, right? And that's what the FBI was disclosing, and they did it because the city of Anaheim had just voted to a settlement, stipulated judgment, to close another lawsuit on the stadium deal, where the state of California would then say, okay, you're good to go. You can go ahead with the deal, close the deal.
Yeah.
They had already began to calendar tentatively for 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, to do the final vote on the deal, close it, escrow, that's it, done. So when I believe the FBI saw that was happening, they worked with the Attorney General's office to say, hey, we're going to keep you from doing something that's going to be really bad for the people and give you this information. And they joined in this written declaration to the court to say, hold out for 60 days on approving the stipulated judgment, the settlement, given what's just come out with the FBI. And the FBI was willing to provide that evidence or that warrant request where all the details come.
Right.
So this FBI person in the Voice of OC article said, that's uncommon, and if they have that means they have a lot more. And they'll often do it to get other people to say, look, we're giving you a chance to come out now and just start pleading and then cooperate.
Collaborating witnesses.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to get the full brunt of the FBI and the Justice, right? Department of Justice.
Come here,
so they're shaking the
rats.
trees. So the article, the gist of it is they're shaking the trees. And I think a lot of us have kind of thought that too. And that's where I think, again, this council has an opportunity to show that it's going to work different, be different, and recognize some of this. But instead, they want the people of Anaheim to honestly believe that they were not part of that. yet they were voting consistently as if it was telepathic, right? The way they voted.
Very consistent.
It's like, nah, man, you guys already had your instructions coming in from somewhere, or a signal from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something I did notice in the shift through the year is there was a moment where Steve Fessel forgot how he was supposed to vote. And it's a hot mic. The Voice of OC caught it, and a lot of people came to comment after. Is Harry said, "No, Steve, we're voting this way on this one," and I think he literally pressed the vote button for him. So that got caught on the hot mic.
Oh.
And what I noticed after that is the mayor would start to announce his vote beforehand. So he would say, "I'm
So
voting
be
no
like,
on this."
No, right? Yeah.
So can council members say, no, we weren't meeting beforehand to decide? No, I would think the strategy is that the cabal said to the members, whatever the mayor says to vote, that's how you're going to vote.
Yeah.
Right? However he's voting, that's how you're voting. You don't need to get any emails from us or anything else.
Yeah.
This is how you're voting. And
Simplify
you
it.
see it consistently in the voting. Consistently.
Yep.
What an idiot!
Yeah.
Come on, man. You had one job. Just vote. Just read the email and vote how you're saying. Yeah. No, it's dude, we're gonna kick this fool out of the family, homie. This
Yeah,
guy's
that's-
you're out, fool. Making us all look bad, homie.
Don't look at me, little puppet.
Don't look at me.
Don't look at me.
Don't look at me and vote like you told you vote, fool. You're out. All right. So it's just so much freaking juicy details between, and it also shows it's corruption runs both ways. It's just the Democrats unfortunately do not come out with like their hands clean in all this. There's from Jordan Brandman, and other folks, that were a part of this. I mean, there was wiretaps for a couple years in this game. People got wiretapped to get this.
Yeah.
Literally 2 to 3 weeks before this all blew up, Jeff Flint, who is considered by many in Anaheim and observers, the mastermind to the strategy, right? Disney funded it and had their representative, Coach Carrie Nocella, their public affairs, government affairs person, be their rep to this ringleaders, the cabals. And then there was Todd Ament and there was Jeff Flint. Most people who observe Anaheim over the years say that Jeff Flint pretty much replaced Kurt Pringle as the lead strategist for this cabal. And so, 2 or 3 weeks before this blew up, he held a fundraiser and pushed campaign dollars for Avelino Valencia and also for Trevor O'Neill. So the public came out and called them on it because it has to be publicly reported. Not everybody's able to figure out where are these campaign statements, right? They're hard to figure out at times. But people who are watching and who know have learned how to do it. And so they did that research and it comes out. So they both say, yeah, well, I've given the money back. But that's not the point. The point isn't that you're giving the money back. The point is that you're part of that circle, right? Whether you're a trusted inner circle person is not so much the issue, so much as they're raising money for you for a reason.
Yeah.
They know you're going to vote with them, as they said in the FBI investigation. He'll be there on the things that matter to us, and he'll take a hall pass on the things that don't matter, right? Where they know they already have the votes. That's standard politics of how people play their special interest politics is if we have the votes, and Jordan was a master at it, as long as they had the votes, Jordan was allowed to vote this other way, against it.
Yeah.
Knowing that at the end,
They're still gonna
the
pass.
special interests will get their special interest. So, which is why I believe they shifted the agenda setting stuff, because you just can't keep putting people on the record over and over where then they can't, that hall pass at some point wears out.
Yeah.
So I think to your point about parties, it's, money is not a partisan question. Money is just going to find people, and people are going to look for money because they have their own political ambitions. They've convinced themselves that that's what matters most.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Avelino's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for his assembly race in a matter of 3 or 4 months. He announced in February, by April, May, he had hundreds of thousands of dollars locked into his account for campaigning for the assembly. Like, how do you do that quickly? And of course, he was supported 500,000 to 600,000 by SOAR and the corporate PACs of Anaheim, the police union of Anaheim, and the police union has this really sweetheart contract where even the union president gets a 17% raise over the life of the contract, but the rank and file gets 11% raise. So it's crazy, and so I mentioned that because of the partisan nature of this. While they make the people in the city somehow fight about Democrat, Republican, one way or the other, big money doesn't care. All they want to know is, are you going to vote for my interest? And so they give to everyone.
Yeah, my worry is that the powers that be are going to get much more creative and moving money around and so that it's not tied into it. And it just goes back to how disastrous Citizens United was. Like, in a world where Citizens United doesn't exist, district elections has a chance to really be, and that coupled with true campaign finance reform, ideally federally, but if not on the local level, then you really have an ability to be like, hey man, let the best person win. The one that has the best ideas, the one that knocks on the most doors, and and send out a mailer or two. But that's what it takes. But with that, like, then they'll just, like you said, they evolved. Like, oh, we'll just flood our candidates, and we'll run the people that look like them and have the last name, or are women, or insert identity politics here.
Yeah.
As long as they're voting for us, then we don't care if there's a D or an R next to their name. We run with the blues and the reds. Because they do our bidding for us. Because as you said, corruption will find a home.
Well, the irony of that is that Trevor O'Neill, and then in my conversations with Councilmember Valencia, I'm already calling him Assemblyman, is that they both have a sentiment that money really isn't what matters in how voters vote. They vote for the candidate, right? And the money doesn't really, people don't vote because, he has the more money or she has the most money. For the most part, voters don't know who has the most money in terms of campaigns. It's the message. So to both of them, Trevor in public, and then in the phone conversation with Avelino, that he said didn't happen, but it actually did, is this idea that the best ideas already come forward. It's like, well, and I said, look, dude, as you're telling me that money doesn't matter, my Facebook is being flooded with your ads. So if money doesn't matter, why are you raising so much, and why are you spending so much if it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
So no, people don't vote because someone has money. It's just that you get inundated in your subconscious with a message about somebody, and when you go to the ballot box, it's a name that sounds familiar, right? And even more so if it's a Latino name, at least in the context of parts of Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So to that end, this campaign finance reform that I proposed 2 years ago, ironically, was tabled by Trevor and the mayor, because they said we have enough campaign finance controls in our city. Anybody can find out what we get for our campaigns and who gives them to us.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but it's mundane. It's very detailed, hard for people to sift through. But two, that's not the purpose of this ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is it's unseemly to me that a council member or the mayor would vote on an item that is of financial interest to someone that donated to their campaign. That just doesn't seem, that seems like a bribe, right, to some extent.
Bit, yeah.
So my ask of the council at the time, and I was able to at least share the ordinance, and they just tabled it, is that if you get money from a donor over $250, you simply have to recuse yourself from the vote.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that way the public clearly understands this is a vote of the merits of the project or the proposal, and not because somebody gave you money. And also, council members have reported in the past, I shouldn't say, donors have shared with me over the years, man, we don't even look to give money, but we get called up and it's a shakedown. Like Jeff Flint would call and say, so-and-so has a fundraiser coming up, and Todd Ament would do this. He would literally tell people, from what I was told, that if you're interested in your project being heard, you can talk to Harry at the next fundraiser. Oh, did I tell you he's also having a debt relief fundraiser to relieve his debt from the assembly race of 2016? You need to go to that one too. So people, business people and other interests were pressured to provide campaign support if they wanted their items heard or sustained, right?
Yeah.
And so some folks have called me in confidence saying, we totally support what you're doing because we're tired of being shaken down by these people,
Yeah.
And so what I propose is for 12 months after you get a contribution, you cannot vote on an item.
Yeah.
And the day of that the item comes, you cannot try to influence in any way the outcome, because you could be recused, but you could tell your friends on the council, hey, if you want your stuff next week, vote for this tonight, even though I can't vote on it.
Yeah.
So you're prohibited from doing that. And then after the vote happens, you're prohibited for another 12 months from taking any contribution from that same contributor that got the vote, or that whose item was of interest.
Oh, okay.
The other part of it is I reduced that to 6 months at the request of Stephen Fessel. He goes, I like all of this, I just can't vote for it if it's 12 months after the vote. Okay, 6 months. Okay, 6 months. The second part is you can only fundraise the year of the election. So people will get elected in 2020, and then they start a re-election for 2024 committee. So they're literally having meetings with special interest people saying, well, I'd love to support your project, but if I don't get re-elected, I don't know if I could be helpful. So then they get bought off, right?
Yeah.
So you can only raise money that year. And then the third piece is if the public sees you violating that ordinance, because maybe you chose not to disclose or you didn't get caught that you're voting on an interest, you violated the ordinance, that the public has the right to come and say, and challenge it with a simple challenge and say, that vote was done illegally because you shouldn't have voted because you got campaign support from that donor, and that was their project, that it would be nullified. The decision is nullified and has to be done over, the vote over. The last piece I'll add to this is what was exciting about this is we were proposing that the recusal of donors was not only if someone directly gave you money, it's PACs.
Oh, wow.
That's the big one.
Yeah, yeah.
Our campaign contribution is $2,000. Harry Sadu didn't do what he did because the Angels gave him $2,000.
Yeah.
He didn't do what he did because Disney
No.
gave him $2,000.
Yeah,
He did it, which goes to the point of where he got really caught. He was going to have the Angels or demand that they give $1 million to a PAC to support him.
yeah.
So if my ordinance had been in place when we were doing the Angels deal, he would not have been able to vote on the Angels deal. Neither would many of them. What they're doing now is they took the item, it deadlocked 3-3 last council meeting. So Fessel re-agendizes it, and I didn't know he was doing this because he didn't at all mention it. Today I learned that tomorrow what we're hearing is a watered-down version of that ordinance. He is removing the PAC component. So you could vote on items if someone donated to a PAC, Disney, $500,000 to a PAC, and they have a project that comes, you'll now be allowed to vote on it. There's no restrictions. He took out the limits of when you can fundraise, so now you could fundraise year-round again. And he took out the part of the public can challenge a decision if they feel that someone should have recused themselves. So basically, he gutted it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to amend it back to its original form, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is that similar to police oversight after the uprisings in Anaheim, that happened all those years ago. 10 years ago,
Wow,
man,
wow,
time
wow.
flies. Look at these
Gray
wrinkles.
hair, yeah.
Yeah. Just for Men is an acceptable gift for Christmas this year. All right, but seriously, they passed a police oversight, and it was largely toothless, and just kind of just to say, hey, we're doing something about it. So they'll be able to use this, the next, the people that vote for it, be like, hey, I'm on the right side of this. I voted for campaign finance reform. Meanwhile, the things that you actually need are not included into it.
Right, super watered down. I'll say the Police Review Commission is actually, I would say, is not that watered down. I was actually part of that.
Okay.
Because people were arguing we need to have subpoena power.
Yeah, that was the watered
and
down.
so when we talked to the ACLU and some other folks in that, they said, well, the only reason you need subpoena power is because the city refuses to turn over documents, right? So we put into the policy that anything the Police Review Commission board needs, Police Review Board needs, the city will hand it over. It just needs to make the request. So by policy, the city administration has to turn over any documents, unless it's a personnel file that is, even with subpoenas hard to get. So that's all embedded. It's all baked in good. It's just a matter of who's sitting on the board.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what we decided to do is, at the request of members in the community who were fighting the fight, is they didn't trust the council appointing their own members to represent the districts because of we now know the cabal.
The
right?
cabal. You just say the cabal.
And we know the police union has put in $400,000 in the last 2 cycles. So that made sense why they didn't want that. So what they asked and what was done was to make it by lottery. So in every district, when there's an opening or the term expires, People apply.
Oh, that's
They just have to
awesome.
be eligible.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't allow for anyone who's been in law enforcement to apply. You're not eligible if you've been in law enforcement. So you apply, you submit, and then all the eligible candidates, 18, citizen, you pull by lottery. So what happens is we left, and this I do regret,
That's awesome.
we left police reform and accountability to chance. And so what's happened in that lottery process is you get really good, well-meaning people wanting to serve, but they, by default, we're socialized to trust the police, right? Unless you've been directly impacted, you tend to want to trust the police. So that's kind of what's happened. We have a couple members now who are pushing really hard, and we'll see. So certainly open to figuring out how to strengthen it further. But it's the infrastructure is there. It's about how do we get people there that really want to hold our police accountable, and review policies in a way that will bring more trust.
So that made me think of something you said, like they don't need subpoena power if they can just ask the city for these documents, right? But it kind of goes back to maybe the city's retention policy on their documents, because it seems like I saw an article they're talking about, it's like 37 days for staff documents and maybe like 90 for other official. Do you foresee passing any ordinances around that, extending those time frames?
Yeah, that actually, and that changed in 2017 when we did the lobbyist registry sunshine ordinance, which for the first time in the city's history, you can go on the website and anyone who lobbies, who gets paid to lobby more than $200 has to register as a lobbyist in our city. So now everybody can see who's trying to, and they have to report quarterly who they're having meetings with at city council or even with staff. And they also have to report how much they're getting paid by the special interest to lobby for them. And they have to report any financial, political contributions they've made to council members. So it's pretty cool, and it's on the website. It's really easy to look at. So that was part of that, and part of it was the sunshine was that retention policy. So at the time we were told, or actually I was told, 90 days, because we used a server, it's super expensive to hold every email in the city on these servers. So it was cost prohibitive, and the council was still largely Republican, very cost conscious. Tom Tate was very cost conscious. I love him and all, but he was very. So I thought, if it's just too costly, I don't want to lose the policy. So we did extend it to 90 days. It used to be 30.
Oh, okay.
So we extended to 90, but we now know that's not enough, right?
Yeah.
We are now on cloud servers, which means that the cost is not so prohibitive anymore.
Right.
And I learned that there's a mechanism where automatically council members' emails can be downloaded into a hard drive and just archived, at least for just council and executive staff, at the very least, right? So that's what I'll be hoping to push. But Avelino, to his credit, in the article said he has ideas of how he's going to really strengthen that. So I'm anxious to hear those ideas.
We'd love to hear those.
Yeah. So, but I would support, the 2 years, at least 2 years, and certainly that all council communications should be archived because the Angels deal was 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So who's going to be the next mayor? You? Woo!
No, I've already been shot down.
That's in order.
The council agendized it, and they seem to be pretty content with the status quo. It was suggested that a mayor is not that important to our city. Avelino said that. He said he asked the city manager, how, has the city's business been impacted in any way by not having a mayor in place? And the city manager's like, no, everything's working fine. So he says, you see, we don't need to rush to this, right? And I'm like, okay.
All right.
And of course, Trevor is like, yeah, I'm comfortable with this because he, as mayor pro tem, based on an interpretation by the city attorney, can continue to chair the meetings and that's it. But he cannot serve in the mayoral capacity. Like he can't go represent the city as a mayor. And so, when that was discussion, the council was pretty content with staying as is. And I asked, well, wait a minute, this is about power. So city manager, who do you go to consult about the agenda? Usually it's the mayor. That's who you set the agenda with, the mayor. Who do you go to consult on the agenda when things come up? Well, with the mayor pro tem.
Convenient.
And if something were to happen in the city, who would you have to go to right now? Well, to the mayor pro tem. So it's like, this is a very important position. And also chairing meetings is pretty important, how you run them, right? And so the council has not seen it important or critical. We had 60 days by charter to appoint someone, or it goes to a special election. Again, the city attorney's interpretation under that, as well as state law, is that if you're within a certain period close to a general election, you could just push that special election to the general election. So that's the rationale. It's like, look, we don't have to rush. We'll just let it go to an election, and we'll just go 6 months without a mayor. Like, we're the city of Anaheim. We can go without a mayor. It's like, man, I thought we were like the city of Anaheim.
Yeah, well.
You know what I mean? I mean, we got 25 million visitors. You got, you know, the professional baseball team, the Ducks, the Honda Center. We're pretty consequential, I would argue, with all due respect and love for our sister city of Santana. We are considered the most consequential economic city, right, in terms of the economy of Orange County. So to say you're going to be without a mayor and something happens in our city, where do we go?
Yeah.
Where do people go? Who represents us? It's just bad. So when we discussed it, the council has this cloud, and one of the members said, well, we all have a cloud over us here, so it's hard to say that anyone would have confidence. And I said, no, the 5 of you have a cloud.
Yeah.
I don't have a cloud.
I've been consistent. I've been good on the issue.
I don't have a cloud. So
You're the silver lining.
So don't throw me in there. And you know, whatever level of humility I may have, I asked. So given that, if you don't have names to submit, I'll submit my own. I'm willing to serve. I'm termed out. I don't have a political interest and cannot run for mayor, and do not have that interest. So this is about having someone in that position that has been that is freed from this doubt, this cloud. So of course they didn't get a second on that self-nomination. And Steve Fessel suggested that we should appoint a retired judge. And he says there's got to be a retired judge in Orange County. He had to be reminded they have to live in Anaheim. It's the mayor of Anaheim.
Yeah.
So that idea didn't go anywhere. and then we brought it back again. And I did nominate Tom Tate. I said, and I talked to him, and he said he was willing to serve.
Oh, wow.
And he says, but that's it. I'm not interested in running for it. I said, okay, as long as you're willing to serve for 5 months to help our city, absolutely. Mayor of kindness.
Yeah.
And so I proposed his name. Steve Fessel had previously said it needed to be someone that was independent of the big money that's under the cloud.
He'd be good.
That's Tom Tate.
That's perfect. Good track record.
Yeah, and they, I was the only vote supporting him. 3 voted no and 2 abstained. And then Avelino nominated Paul Cott. Paul Cott is done a lot of good work in Anaheim, but I could not support that. He's a member of the SOAR committee, advisory committee. He has given thousands of dollars to some of these candidates and campaigns. Do I think he's a central part of the cabal? No, but he's part of the cloud. And so how do you do that? And he's never been in elected office. So you're just going to put him in, even though he's connected to some of this? So I didn't think that was fair to him. And even though he's self-nominated, I just thought this isn't going to be good. And that's where we're at. Right now, there's no agenda item for tomorrow. I thought there was supposed to be, but there isn't. And we're just going to go with Trevor O'Neill as our mayor pro tem.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And the rumors are that he's gearing up for a mayoral campaign potentially. When is the cutoff for that, for people to announce? I might just move back into it.
I think it's
If you have time,
I think the filing period is mid-July to mid-August, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely time, and apparently he can run as mayor pro tem, so that would probably be a really nice title.
Which
for
I
him.
thought was interesting in that discussion, Joseph, because when I talked about we have to appoint someone, and I self-nominated, Avelino asked this interesting question to the city attorney and the city clerk, if we appoint someone interim mayor, will they be able to use it on a ballot designation? Which I thought was an interesting question. Odd. Why does that matter right now? And I just thought, I just told you I can't run for mayor. I'm termed out. I can't run. So what's the purpose of that question? And so they said, I think they could use, I forget exactly what they said, but I then decided to follow that thinking and saying, well, that's why we can't have Trevor O'Neill as mayor pro tem, because he will be able to say, and he will in the campaign statements he'll make, maybe not him, but the PACs that support him will say he ran the city as the mayor pro tem. He was effectively our mayor. That's going to happen. So we can't keep this current setup, which is why he should not be continuing. Others have argued you're only mayor pro tem to serve the duties of the mayor while the mayor's absent. Now, the mayor's vacant.
Yeah.
There's no mayor.
There's
There's
no
no mayor pro tem. You
Yeah.
can't have a mayor pro tem if you don't have a mayor, is the argument by some, which is a pretty sound argument. But nonetheless, all those arguments go one way and go the other. And I think at this point, as I'm watching what the campaign finance ordinance is happening, how the discussion started to play out a bit about agendizing, that got tricky. And other conversations we're having is, again, the tone has shifted, but the cabal wasn't simply Todd Ament, Harry Sadu, and Jeff Flint. It's who funded the cabal, and whoever funded the cabal will replace the leaders, right? The implementers of that cabal.
Yeah.
And Disney's still in place, and we know it's their money that ran it, and we know that the Chamber of Commerce was the fiduciary agent, the fiscal agent for those monies.
Yeah.
That's what I hope the council will realize. That's what campaign finance really does. It goes at the root of the source of the money.
Yeah.
And so, and it doesn't, they argue it's unconstitutional under Citizens United. City attorney already said, no, we believe it is constitutional. Others, localities are doing it around the country. And he said even in the academic legal scholarship, they're saying, yeah, this is actually a way around Citizens United. Because Citizens United labeled contributions as free speech, right? Money as free speech. And ironically, he quoted Antonin Scalia, our city attorney.
What?
In a decision by the Supreme Court, Scalia said, elected members of an office do not have, voting is not a question of free speech. In other words, even as an elected, I don't have the right to vote on the dais. That we can regulate ourselves, is what the argument was by the Supreme Court. So, and he showed examples that Scalia did in that decision. So the city attorney said what this is doing is, it's not limiting the amount or whether they can contribute. It's if they do, and you benefit from that money, you have to recuse yourself.
Right.
So it's the elected body regulating itself, and according to the Supreme Court, yes. Because one of them raised, don't we have the right to vote? You don't, under the Supreme Court's decision.
Interesting.
So anyone who raises constitutionality that's just a red herring. We can regulate ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just. I wanted to point out. I'll play devil's advocate for the PAC stuff. They'll claim there's no coordination with these PACs, and if someone decides to give their money, like why should someone recuse themselves if that's independently done?
Right.
What would
And
you
that's
say?
true. That's legally true. You cannot coordinate. It's illegal.
Yeah.
And that's the argument being made. By the way, the devil already has a lot of advocates.
You don't need me. You're doing it.
Heard that.
But it's an argument that's been posed from the dice.
Yeah.
And so the argument, and it's one about our values, is look, at the end they're giving money for a reason. So it's up to them. They can give you all the money they want, but they got to know in doing that if they're trying to get you elected because they have a project coming that they want to benefit from, yeah, you should absolutely be recused.
Yeah.
Ask anybody, should you be able to vote? Most people say, yeah, no, that's not right. Or at least have to wait for a year to vote.
Yeah.
'Cause it wasn't like you can never vote on their thing. You just have to wait a year before you can vote on their item,
Right.
which assures at the very least these folks have to go through a different process to get their stuff supported.
Right.
And wait. And certainly when Harry was elected and two of the members were elected in 2018, within 3 weeks they agendized the Angels. Within 3 weeks they agendized Anaheim First. Or within 3 months. Within a month they agendized a $700,000 no bid contract to the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the president of the board, who runs a construction company, to renovate a shelter. Like within weeks, right? They were giving contracts and doing all these things, reinstating a lease to Artie Moreno that was in the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. So this ordinance would have simply said, you got to wait 12 months. Sorry, Artie. Thank you for the support, but I can't vote now because. So now Artie might think different of how he funds or whether he even funds. Right? Instead, it's like, look, Artie, just go knock on doors.
Yeah.
You don't have to get money, go knock on doors, right? Get your volunteers and go knock on doors like everybody else has to do who wants to get their message out.
Right.
So that's why that's really the counter to that to me. It's not a permanent recusal, it's a waiting period. That's it. That's all it is. And it seems fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can and should be done, and like to prevent corruption and such, and like you said, it's a gas. It seems like there's a little crack. It'll find its way to it. In a bigger, which we won't get into. We actually need to wrap it up pretty soon, but. Can we legislate ourselves away from corruption as a society? Is that the way? Because it just seems like that's when we try to do that, then we ultimately start getting into like just infringing upon our freedoms type of thing. Just debate. Is that something you can even legislate away, or it's like that feels like it's a cultural, societal kind of question. As well as a legislative. I'm not saying it's not a legislative, but because how do you get rid of corruption?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get rid of a lot of money and the need for people to I could do a lot with that money, and at some point it stops being about money. It's just about power, and just absolute power corrupts absolutely on that stuff. But it's hard to raise good folks to be able to take on these positions of power and stand strong.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is similar to saying, can you legislate honesty, right? And I don't know if you could, but you could certainly create the conditions for consequences, right? Like we do with anything else. We legislate how we drive and seatbelts. It's in the interest of public safety, right? And so I think in terms of the political process, it's trying to create as best a condition to have confidence in the decisions that are being made. And so if we know that because of Citizens United, that money plays in, there's no limits to what these PACs and these special interests can give, then that becomes a different form of, shouldn't we do something about that? So can you legislate so much that you end up becoming Big Brother? Yeah, so long as you're mindful with does this lead us that direction? I would argue on this one, no, because again, it's about choice. If you choose to spend $500,000, that's great. Good for you. You love democracy and you want to fund it. But if you're doing it to get something in return, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that it still leaves a choice. So it's not like, and that's why I think Councilman Diaz was a bit confused on the ordinance, because he argued, I don't like limiting contributions and I don't think we should be doing that. People should be able to give money. And so we had Steve Vessel correct him. That's not what this is. This is simply saying if you someone who gives money is giving you money because they want to see you elected, not because they have a project interest. So that's what it does. It kind of regulates our worst tendencies, right? Protects us from our worst tendencies.
Yeah, I like that. It is like a short-circuiting the situation in a sense.
Right. There's got to be something to balance Citizens United at the local level, at least.
Yeah.
And if there's no Citizens United, we may not even be having this conversation. Or frankly, we might, because Disney's been investing this way for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's every town is a company town. It's just important for us. It's easy to identify who the company is. But Fullerton has their folks who control their politics and invest in them in ways. Santana, we certainly know, and Garden Grove, and Aliso Viejo. And there's always someone that benefits from the policies or the developments of a city. And I think every city should be looking at how do we mitigate that, so that voters can truly vote based on candidates that really reflect their community interest, and not because they're being fed glossy mailers saying that someone cares about their interests, but at the same time they made commitments because that's what they needed to get those glossy mailers to you. That's the part that
There's only one cabal that I want benefiting, and it's the cabal of the people. Okay, we need to start the people's cabal.
The people's
now.
cabal.
Or La Familia.
We're trying to reclaim that word now.
We have to reclaim cabal.
It's like, hey,
this year.
Hashtag not all cabals.
No.
I'm saying we should just get no cabals. We should get medieval with it. I would just love to see Harry Sidhu in one of those pillories, like the wood things, and we just like throw tomatoes at them and stuff.
Yeah.
Like public shame of people that do wrong is a great deterrent that I may support when I run for office.
And maybe tattoo a scarlet letter? Is that what you're saying? Like, what does that mean, man? Where are you taking us?
You get face tattoos. Yeah.
But, to your point, though, okay, and we'll all take...
Public shame.
Maybe some level of satisfaction from that. But a reminder, man, the Anaheim Stadium deal needed at least 4 votes. So it's not just Harry.
Yeah.
Is these other folks voted for that deal for a reason. And to me, it's because they were part of a system, a culture that said if you want to be supported, if you want to be VIP, if you want to keep getting, your face on places and things, then you need to vote with Harry on this. No doubt. Because when you watch that meeting and when that decision was made, Denise Barnes and I tried to make amendments that were reasonable about value. Like, hey, today's the first time we're seeing in the public conversation, first time we have a public conversation about the value of the land that's being offered. Why don't we up that to $100 million, right? And then gave the reasons why, based on the appraisal.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like the deal didn't move at all.
Yeah.
No deal points were changed when we voted on them. They got 5 votes. Well, Jordan wasn't there. He got sick that day, supposedly. So he was in the emergency room, is where he called. So there were 4 votes that were locked in on that deal.
Yeah.
And so that's where you say, nah, man, Harry was 1 vote. Harry got himself on the negotiating committee. It took 4 votes for that to happen.
Yeah.
They were locked in to get him into that negotiating committee to dictate the terms. 4 of them voted to reinstate the lease for Anaheim Stadium, which now we have to live under, which is a horrible lease. It was free and clear, the land. It was free and clear. They opted out of the lease. Within 3 weeks of getting elected, he agendizes it, and it gets 4 members, right? 5 members voted to not allow a discussion of Anaheim Stadium anymore by agendizing this idea that you need 3 people to agendize an item.
Right.
So just a soft reminder.
Right. People want the narrative is that it was Harry.
They want a villain, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. And
he's gone.
And that's what this council is doing right now. Well, Harry's not here. And that argument was made at the last meeting. Got pretty tense because I kept reminding the count, like, look, we have to get out of this, right? This is about, and one of them decided to just go on the attack and said, and both 2 of them, Gloria and Avelino, you need to stop that narrative. You keep saying this narrative. Harry's not here anymore, right? That's the past. We're moving forward.
That's the past.
And I'm like, no, man.
Yeah.
You kept voting with him on, well, I didn't vote on several things. Name those votes. And I had to disclose in the public interest that a couple of the votes that he was not supportive of with Harry were hall passes. They were hall passes. And even then, the hazard pay that we got agendized, that was labor pressing hard on him and Jordan saying, this is an important thing to us. Because I tried to agendize it, and they said no. They pressed hard, so we got 3 members to agendize it, and then Avelino crafted the ordinance in such a way, that I said, okay, if that's the only way you'll support it, to exempt Northgate Gonzalez Market, non-union. Doesn't matter to me if you're union or non-union, it's about workers. But they made the threshold at 50 employees as the proposal so that Northgate would be exempted. And I know that because I was called with that lobby. So for him to kind of say, I went against the grain, I did hazard pay, it's like, no, you still did it under the guise of a special interest. And frankly, you only did it because labor, and again, I agree with that part of it, it's workers need this. Essential workers. But it wasn't going to pass. There weren't 4 votes for it, and they knew it. So they were allowed to go through with it. So things like that the public doesn't see, and then someone gets to kind of pound their chest. I went against the grain. No, you didn't, man. You didn't. Stop trying to do that.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering, you said earlier, like sometimes when the FBI starts these warrants, they probably have a lot more, and they're trying to get people to be like, come on, it's over for you. So I'm wondering, if this whole thing was set up like Harry messed up this corruption, or they made him the guy, to take the fall for it or something, or maybe they set it up in such a way that the other council members didn't have to conduct themselves in an illegal manner or something. So, I mean, we have yet to see, but...
We do, and again, just based off of what was quoted in the perspective of the Voice of OC article interviewing some former prosecutors, is that it was uncommon for them to even come out with this. Usually they'll just keep listening, wiretapping to get more, figure out how high does this go. But also going to the mayor level is already pretty high. But it sounded like the perspective of some of them, because the FBI didn't give any quotes or comments, is that when they saw that the state was about to settle a case that was so consequential to the people of Anaheim, it seems from the way it was described that what potentially would have happened is that the FBI says, look, it's like you're about to see that gazelle get eaten up by that lion. And you're sitting there watching TV, saying, no, why does the cameraman scare the gazelle, let him run early, do something. So I'm grateful that they didn't take a National Geographic approach and say, hey, that's just nature, let it happen. The cycle of life. That they said, this is wrong and we know it, and this deal's totally corrupt. And let's just spare the people of Anaheim having to untangle all this later. And let's just out this now. That's the perspective I sensed from some of these folks who commented in that article, who are former prosecutors. Otherwise, they said that probably wouldn't have happened. But
yay, FBI! Man, times has changed, man.
Love the feds.
Yeah, man. Well, we got to wrap this up. Dr. Moreno, you're a prolific conversationalist. We could talk for hours and hours about all these things. But, I'm sure the last time, I want to apologize. Last time I was treating you like you were out the next month. He's like, I still got work to do, man. I'm still gonna be here.
Yeah, we're it's been a good run.
You're
like, bro, I'm going to be here.
You're like, bro, I still got work to do. And boy, did you. Boy, do you, and and you're still, going to be doing the most you can with this in light of this new context. But also you're going to be terming out, which is sad, But we got Al Jabbar is going to be running, for your seat. Great guy, really for the people. Very much similar in so many ways to, your principles and your stances on so many things. So we're really, I think the people of Anaheim deserve big shoes to fill, unfillable, in my opinion, but still Al is going to do the most, and and so will the community, because I feel like very similar community that supported you, all those races, is now hopping in with Al. But I mean, one of the questions here, and I think we mentioned, is how do you feel leaving, but in the near future, but and then not being in politics after how many years, right? You looking forward to that? And are you looking forward to the future of Anaheim without you? Is there hope?
I don't know if Al has to fill any shoes, other than in every step there's a different set of shoes, right? So you have hiking shoes, you have running shoes, jogging shoes, walking shoes. So I think that, I'm really excited for certainly my part of the city and for the city as a whole to the work that Al will be doing, and the vision he has, which is very much aligned, but there's other things that he'll be hopefully pushing as well. But most importantly, he'll be someone that will work in a transparent and honest way, right? In terms of his policy work and engagement. So I'm excited for our city and our district for that. Big money's coming at him. They are coming at it hard. His opponent is the chief financial officer of the Orange County Business Council. Has not been involved in any kind of part of the city's work over the last 10 years, community work around empowerment. I'm sure she's done some volunteer work here and there, but has not opined on matters that are in the most consequential from a policy and budgetary standpoint. So I hope that people see through that, and we'll certainly keep supporting Al. He's shown himself. I still got 6 months, 5 months. I have 5 months, people can continue to count on me just doing what I've been trying to do, and it sometimes feels ugly, novela-like, and like, we don't want to see that in our electeds, but sometimes you got to see that, and I just will continue to try to be respectful, but respectfully disagree, and push the envelope and push the transparency, and when people try to paint a different picture of themselves, either the council or individuals, to say that's not true. We have pictures, we have receipts, as folks like to say.
The kids calling.
And then the elections are going to be really important. And I'm hopeful that when you were talking about cabals, I'm not seeing a lot of candidates who are running for office coming out hard on this in a consistent way.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing that for whatever reasons. And so I hope that people will. I hope they'll put out their own actual vision, their actual policy ideas, not just plateaus. Like, I support housing. I support positive relations with police and the community. I believe in accountability. I believe in transparency. I believe all children should be happy. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
that's great, man. But
But what are you going to do? What does that look like?
Saving
Yeah,
puppies.
But 3,000 units have been built in my part of the city, not one affordable. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Do you think we should have a policy to require it? 18,000 units are being built in the Platinum Triangle across from the stadium. Not one is an affordable housing unit. What do you think about that? Don't you think we should
They
require
probably
it?
still believe in housing, though.
Yeah. And living wages, you now need, from estimates, $39 an hour to basically afford a basic 2-bedroom apartment in Anaheim. And Beach Boulevard isn't the only boulevard in Anaheim. And I'm glad we're investing in it. It's right. We've been waiting for a long time. But we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and I believe our staff have the skills and the talent to do it. We just have to resource it. We still only have one public swimming pool in the entire city of Anaheim. Santana has more public swimming pools than Anaheim.
Damn, I like how you emphasize Santana. Like, how could Santana?
Because you look at Santana, you're like, man, we got Disneyland, we got this, and Santana, how they and generationally chose to invest,
Man,
even though
y'all got Disneyland, we got pools. All right, you can't have everything. Just kidding.
So I hope the next generation, and I know Vince Sarmiento, which is why I so respect him. He knows it, he sees it, and as a supervisor, I think he'll be able to. But one of the things that doesn't get talked about, if you don't mind, can I just
Go for it. Yeah,
Sure.
please.
The thing about, I've often been asked about our fight in Anaheim for decades about Disney and its subsidies and giveaways and tax exemptions. Why should people in Santana care? That's an Anaheim thing, and I've sensed that at times. Why should people in Fullerton care? And I think this is something council members in Santana should think about, in Fullerton, Garden Grove, and Orange. When Anaheim subsidizes hotels, right now it's over $700 million. No, take away 250 because Disney had to back out. When Anaheim gives Disney tax exemptions, credits, all these things for big businesses in the resort area, Disney employs 30,000 plus people. We know, according to them, 5,000 live in Anaheim. Where do the other 25,000 live? So while at the very least we get some, we do get good benefits from our TOT. Santana has to house the workers of the Disney resort. So does Garden Grove. So does Orange. We at least get some help to do it, even though it's not enough. But the surrounding cities, I think, need to start thinking about that. Is when another city does a policy that brings in low-wage, working poverty jobs, and that city doesn't accommodate the housing for that workforce, somebody's going to have to do it, and it tends to be Santana, which is why it's so overcrowded. It's not because Santana has these huge industries; it's that they become the place where the workers of the county live, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why I'm excited about Vince Sarmiento being a supervisor, because he sees it, he gets it, he's going to speak to it, and hopefully, if there are quote-unquote 3 Democrats who say they get it, that they'll be able to start doing some policies around that.
Yeah, man, because as you mentioned, just I mean, you didn't go all that far, but because of the inaction and willful negligence by the county, cities like Anaheim and your district and Santana, folks probably died that shouldn't have had we had more access to community clinics to get our people vaccinated. And so, yeah, definitely on the Sarmiento, train, and and hopefully gets in and hoping that we get candidates in Anaheim elected that are gonna be able to turn the tide in a way that really goes the full way that we need, and not just speaking about it in terms of like, hey, I was always here on the right side. Like, no, you're doing it. You're standing up for the people, with the people, and you're not. And you're not taking that money that's gonna make people question whether or not you're actually gonna do it.
Anaheim and Santana's politics were aligned for a long time on special interests, right? Police, resort stuff, and other special interests. So I'm excited of the idea that Santana has a powerfully people-centered council right now with this mayor and and Jesse and Councilwoman Lopez and Hernandez and typo at times, I'll say. But for the most part there, rent stabilization and other things. So, and I just think, man, if Anaheim were to align on that and get a council then now you have the two largest cities aligned on the realities of people's lives, who will say, no, we will no longer serve as we will no longer serve this role for the county of getting the least resources, yet we provide the most, both in labor and also in terms of amenities that bring tourism, right? So no, resources have to come to us. And so to have the two largest cities have councils that might be aligned around the lived experience of people that live in their boundaries, and see themselves as what we are, sister cities, I think it'll be quite a powerful regional moment for us.
Amen to that.
Oh, yeah.
And on that beautiful note, from your words to the gods, man, and the political gods. Although I will say that I've become convinced, and after 10 years in this game, that God has nothing to do with politics. might have a little bit to do with soccer, but absolutely nothing. He could not care enough, less about. Like, this is a purely man-made institution of, the worst things coming out of humanity through politics. Not always, and you are, a great exception to that, Dr. Moreno, but, we're always happy to have you on here and, to be able to hear from you and this insight. And because I wasn't able to, attend your classes, and be one of your students, but this is like my way of just getting a public audience. Really, it's all for me.
He just wants to hear a lecture.
I just want to hear, which I'm sure that must be really interesting with all of this going out. I'm sure the students, might read or see social media. It's like, hey, what the heck is going on?
I actually keep it separate. I actually don't.
No?
I don't disclose that I'm involved in all this politics work.
Oh, okay.
But eventually, the students will say, "We Googled you, and
we found out about
we saw you got arrested. And why do they hate you?" And, and they call you this Chicano studies lefty academic. What's that about? So I just kind of will say, yeah, that's part of my life. You want to talk about it? I'm happy to talk about it. But in class, what you get out of that from me is the benefit of having worked through some of these theories in practice, and happy to share experiences about the reality of politics and education, how social policy impacts people's lives. And we say that politics don't matter, but we know that it matters. I think Tom Tate used to say this: you may not care about politics, but politics cares about you. So I try to get them to see, like, this is the consequence. But I use multiple cities as that example, because there are always entities that will say, I'm trying to politicize my classroom for my own political electoral stuff, and I try to keep away from that as much as I can.
Yeah, no, that's good.
It's wise.
Yeah, but the Google will expose you. I just looked you up on IG. All right, so once again, thank you so much, Dr. Moreno.
Yes.
We might have you back on.
At this rate.
At this rate, we might as well.
Taking over
in 4.5 months, so have you have a farewell show. For now, because Woo! Assemblyman Moreno, maybe? Congressman Moreno?
Hopefully, vacationer Moreno first.
President of the United States of America Moreno?
The politics.
Come on.
The politics will end, but the engagement certainly won't. So that's for
Absolutely. That it has been, after 2 decades, 3 decades of service, we can expect that from you, good sir. Your name was well established before you became a council member in this beautiful city I grew up in. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Moreno, for being on. Woo! Ow! Yeah. How you feeling?
Fantastic.
I feel like re-energized all of a sudden.
Yeah, I need another beer.
Yeah, it's been a real journey with the pandemic and COVID and just all sorts of stuff happening individually and in our lives. I got married. That was
Crazy.
Cool. Crazy! Woo! I was 6 years ago. Where was I? We were at El Centro Cultural de Mexico, and little room, really hot, bad sound, not good video at all. No video at all. Just my phone. But here we are now.
Now we have decorations.
Now we have decorations.
Look at that.
And yeah.
You did this, right?
We've come like, I did this. This is me. Yeah. So we're going to try to do this at least once a month, just we get busy.
Making it happen.
Stuff happens,
Yeah.
but I most definitely want to bring. There's all sorts of important folks in our community. Progressives, community-oriented, community-centered
Grassroots.
candidates, and just people on the front lines of trying to make this world a better place. And there's a lot of things that frustrate me on the international and national level, but God knows there is things on the local level that you can and should be involved with. School boards, council, city council, and all sorts of things, supporting, volunteering, donating, and everybody can oppose, but what can you propose a better solution? And if we're not winning, what are we doing wrong, and how can we empower ourselves to organize ourselves in the best way to be able to take on the powers that be? We can and we will and we must.
That's right. That's where we're holding this guy accountable.
It's all right. So once again, thank you everybody that joined us, and please share this video, comment, like it, share it with your friends. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, and we're going to try to do this again some more because these voices and these words need to come out. People need to understand what is going on in their neck of the woods here at OC, California, United States,
Planet Earth,
the world. All right.
Milky Way galaxy.
With that, I want to thank audio video engineer Edgar Silva, Iron Lion Media. Hit him up. Hit us up. Yeah. From Dylan Thompson.
Hit me up. Just text me. We'll put my number in the
Yeah.
thing.
Add him on IG
after
and
the show.
and follow him for no reason because he doesn't post or he won't like any of your stories. I hate you. Why won't you heart my stories?
Please.
All right. From Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us here on It's Happening, we are signing off.
It's happening.
Woo, 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 woo.
Cegado de realidad para no ver lo que es verdad. Te han engañado, no es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar. Ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores. Hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capital. Hay que levantar conciencia para podernos gobernar.